when I got born again, Tracy made the point that that addictive attitude is awesome when it comes to God, because there's no end to the sky. There's no limit.
Yeah.
You can't overdose on it. I mean, I guess you can overdose on it. Maybe that's what you need to do, is overdose on it. So that craving or that hunger, that desire that's in someone that's an addict in some form, turns out to be the best thing ever.
Right.
Blessed are you when you hunger and thirst. Right? I mean,
Right.
so there's a sense of need that we ought to have in that respect, right? I mean, not neediness, but a sense of longing for fulfillment, more and more fulfillment, more and more. I think it's in Ephesians where it says, be ye filled with the Spirit. I remember someone saying, what that is really saying is, be being filled, like in a continuous, like in a continuous way. I want to say several years, I don't know, a while back, I ran across a verse in Psalms, and it said, delight yourself in the Lord, and He will give you the desire of your heart. And I remember thinking, I don't even know what that means. What does that mean? Delight myself. Yay! I mean, I don't know what that means. What does that mean? And so I looked it up. I looked up the word in the concordance, and it basically said, make yourself moldable. Make yourself pliable. So it's saying, if you make yourself moldable and pliable, then He will give you the desires of your heart. Why? Because then your desires are His desires. So you become His desires, they become one with your desire. Your want-tos become His want-tos.
That's good.
So it's not that He's out here going, oh, well, what's their desire? Oh, well, that's your desire. He's looking for somebody that's desire is the same as His. And it's not a big problem then. He just, let me pour into that one. So I remember thinking one day, a while back, I remember thinking, Lord, I wish I could teach the Bible like every day.
True.
Well, this week, I led a Bible study Wednesday. I led a men's Bible study last night. I'm sitting here now. We're going to the prison tonight. In the morning, I'm going to teach Sunday school. And tomorrow night, I'm going to the jail. So that's 6 times in 5 days.
There you go. Pretty good, God.
So we're getting there. We only got 2 more days to. But I was telling Tracy this morning, the thing about it is, it's so great is that, you become a believer and you don't go, God, I'm a teacher. I just wish I could teach all the time, and God just dumps it on you. See, it's almost, I was telling Tracy, it's sort of like working out. Not that I would know anything about that, other than watching her, but, you start off doing jumping jacks and push-ups, and then you eventually do weights and whatever. I mean, but it's a gradual moving into the thing until you're doing more than you ever thought you could be doing, if you want to put it that way, and there's no burden in it.
Right.
So God has this way of just walking you slowly into what it is that He's got for you, and it seems effortless. And then at some point in your life, you look back and you're thinking, how did I get here? Because you're just carried along. You're not trying to do it. It's not trudgering. There's a word. Trudgering. It's just life. And when I was telling Tracy about all these times I'm sharing the word in the last few days, and she said, well, Christ is our life. I mean, how can you not?
Yeah.
I mean, how do you not do what you're created to do? So, I mean, you're singing and playing guitar, and I'm thinking, there's no effort in that. That's how you express yourself. So when you're involved, moving in what you're called to be, it's not sweat-filled, or it's not effort-bound. It just is. It's the way you communicate. It's the way you do what you do. So, well, with all the stuff that's been said with Sylvia and Brett, I mean, I always feel a little bit overwhelmed because it all goes together somehow. But I was going to share something that I recently kind of came across that fits into all this. But if you want, you can look in Acts chapter 9, and then I'm going to go to Acts 26. But, we're always reading Paul's letters, and we're primarily focused on, I'm speaking for myself, I'm primarily focused on what his revelation was, which is great, But the thing that is amazing to me is how the moment that he meets Jesus and really sees him for how he is, Jesus tells him right off the bat the truth that we're saying most people don't get.
That's true.
He gets it, bingo, right off the bat. Why? Because Jesus is revealing it to him. And when Jesus reveals it to you, you do get it.
That's right.
When it's some other teacher or book or program, you might hear Jesus in it, you might not, right? But anyway, so in Acts chapter 9, it starts off saying that Saul was breathing out threats and murder. He was a very religious man, hunting down Christians because he had to squash this heresy. He had to stamp it out, because that's what God would have him do. So on his way there, Jesus goes, hey, wait a minute. I don't think you're getting it here. So Saul hears the voice. He's like, who are you? And Jesus said, I'm the one you're persecuting. All right, so I want to jump to my point here. Jesus tells a man named Ananias to go and see Saul in a Go see Saul in a house on a street called Straight. It feels all of a sudden like a tongue twister. But he tells Ananias to go to lay hands on Saul, and that his eyes would be open because he had been blinded. And Ananias is going, are you sure, Lord? He doesn't really know if this is, he's thinking, this guy is liable to kill me. I don't know if this is, I mean, the moment when you're not sure if you're hearing God or not, I mean, that is one of those moments, isn't it? So he tells Ananias to go see him and tells him what to say. So in Acts 9 verse 15 it says, but the Lord said to him, go, for he is a chosen, my Bible says instrument, but it also says vessel. He is a chosen vessel of mine to bear my name before the Gentiles and kings and the sons of Israel, for I will show him how much he must suffer for my name's sake. Okay, Christianity 101. You are a suffering vessel.
Yay.
Wow. This is your mission if you choose to accept, yeah. I mean, a suffering vessel, that's what you get. That's what I'm offering you. No new Cadillac, no big house, no perfect health forever. No, he's promising him suffering and that he's a vessel. So he's sending him to the Gentiles, kings, and sons of Israel. All right, so jump ahead a little ways here. Acts 26. I find this fascinating because in Acts 26, Paul, formerly Saul, he's now the Apostle Paul, and he finds himself standing in front of King Agrippa. And he is sharing his testimony, what we just looked at basically, with King Agrippa. But there's some details in here that are really nowhere else. And so Acts 26, starting at verse 14, I'm going to read 14 through 18. So this is Paul telling King Agrippa. He says, and when we had fallen to the ground, I heard a voice saying to me in the Hebrew dialect, Saul, Saul, why are you persecuting me? It is hard for you to kick against the goads. And I said, who are you, Lord? And the Lord said, I am Jesus, whom you are persecuting. But get up and stand on your feet. For this purpose I have appeared to you, to appoint you a minister and a witness, not only to the things which you have seen, but also to the things in which I will appear to you, rescuing you from the Jewish people and from the Gentiles to whom I'm sending you, to open their eyes so that they may turn from darkness to light and from the dominion of Satan to God, that they may receive forgiveness of sins and an inheritance among those who have been sanctified by faith in me. So there's the mission. This just blows my mind. So he says, for this purpose I've appeared to you. And he appoints him a minister, not only to be a witness for what you've seen, but what you're going to see. And then this next part that I thought, this really struck me. Verse 17, he says, rescuing you. So Jesus is saying, I'm going to rescue you. He's telling him beforehand, I'm going to rescue you from what I'm sending you to get involved in. I mean, he ain't even got there yet,
Right.
but he's already given him the word that I'm keeping you, I'm going to pull you out of the fix you're going to find yourself in, rescuing you from the Jewish people and from the Gentiles to whom I'm sending you. So he's saying, look, here's your mission, to tell people what you've seen and what you're going to see, and you're going to need rescuing. And in my Bible, it has the word, let's see, it says the word Jewish is in italic, it's italicized, which means it's not in the original. So, but the point I'm getting from this is that Paul was going to be being a witness to the Jews and the Gentiles. Now we know his primary calling was to the Gentile world, but he did have to deal with Jews at the same time. He traveled in those circles, and the Jews, there they were. So he knows beforehand that he's going to need rescued. I notice what he doesn't say. He doesn't say, you're on your own, hopefully you'll figure out how to get out of this mess. I mean, I always like it because if God calls you to something, he always provides what's needed to accomplish it. And yet we get fearful and concerned and worried, well, I'm not going to have enough money, or I don't have enough time, or they're not going to listen, or I don't know how to get there. You know, we got all these roadblocks and reasons why we just don't do what we're told to do. And he's saying, look, I got this covered. So he's going to rescue them. All right, now here's what he's to do. Verse 18, to open their eyes so that they may turn from darkness to light, and here's the clincher for me, and from the dominion of Satan to God. Jews and Gentiles are under the dominion of Satan. So this is everyone. Everyone the Apostle Paul is going to come in contact with and share the truth with is under the dominion of Satan. You know, a lot of times people, and I'm one of them, have a hard time getting a hold on this, but when I saw this, I thought, well, that's red letters. This ain't some misunderstanding by some teacher or by some other person. This is Jesus saying this.
Right.
Whoa. Right? I mean, so this right here is backing up everything that we've been talking about, really. Is basically, the Bible says in Romans 6, we're either a slave to sin or a slave to righteousness. So we're under the dominion of another all the time.
Amen.
We're in the dark, we need to be transferred into the light. We're in Adam, we need to be brought into Christ. We're lost, we need to be found. We're fallen, we need to be picked up. Right? I mean, over and over, there's no middle option given. And that's when it struck me why Jesus was going to have to rescue him. I was telling Sylvia this last night, because who wants to be told that they have Satan ruling them?
Right.
You go blow into town, hey, all you dominated by Satan, wake up. And next thing you know, you're stoned and left for dead, or put in prison, or ridiculed. And so you need rescued. So here you go. If the world system is ruled by the spirit of the world, the spirit of error, when you start shining light and bringing truth to it, now you start to understand the suffering vessel part. Because everything you do and say is running against the grain of what you're dealing with. I mean, it's just amazing. So he needs rescued. So Paul, the Apostle Paul, had already been rescued. He'd already been brought out of this dominion of Satan. This legalistic, I'm the greatest apostle of all time, was under the dominion of Satan.
That's right.
Wow.
Yeah.
You know, many times me and Tracy have heard people say, when they find out we go to the jail or the prison, they say, I just don't think I could do that. And it's just now hitting me. I'm thinking, well, next time no, I'm not going to go there. Which is scarier? To go into a building full of people that have been arrested for crimes and you know it, or to go into a church or synagogue where everybody has got their mask on so great, everyone thinks they're okay, and it's really more dominated by Satan maybe sometimes than the jail or prison.
That's right.
You know,
just got caught.
Yeah, well, and now they're exposed. You know, I remember telling a group of guys down there recently, I said, you know, you guys right now are in a greater position than a lot of people on the outside, because the people on the outside are sleepwalking back and forth to work. They're driving down the road, they got their 2.5 children, they got their health plan, they got their house paid for, they got food in their cupboards, and they don't see a problem. They're just going back and forth. Time to make the donuts. Just going back and forth. Meanwhile, there's a bunch of guys sitting in jail or prison thinking, I don't even know if my family is ever going to come to see me. I don't know what I'm going to do if I ever get out of here. See, they're finding themselves in a perfect powerless place. So it doesn't mean they can't become hardened and go further into the hardening, but the opportunity for freedom is found in the jail. I mean, it's another upside down.
Yeah.
That's the theme, I think, now, is the upside downness of God. You know, it's another aspect of that. All right, so the Apostle Paul gets transformed on the road to Damascus in Acts 9. In Acts 26, he's telling King Agrippa that I'm just here to be a light so that people can have their eyes opened and that they can say, get me free from this dominion of Satan. That's, he's like, come on, King Agrippa. I mean, come on. What do you think? I mean, you know these things. So then as I looked at this, I started thinking, well, this is clarifying yet even more stuff in my mind about how Paul writes his letters and what his message really is. I mean, this is where the cross comes in, isn't it? I mean, this is where the deliverance comes through that. And Saul, he got a hold of that. And so all through every one of his letters, he says, well, human wisdom can't fix your problem. Religion can't fix your problem. Trying harder can't fix your problem. You have to see yourself as having died. Right? I mean, you have to see yourself as having died and been raised back. That's the only solution. That's the only door out of this dominion that you find yourself under. Amazing. So in Colossians 1, I've been hooked on Colossians. Some people are hooked on phonics. I'm hooked on Colossians lately. So in Colossians 1, verse 13, the Apostle Paul says, "For he rescued us from the domain of darkness and transferred us to the kingdom of his beloved Son, in whom we have redemption, the forgiveness of sins." So he rescued us. I remember being on drugs for all them years, and you always think you can handle it. 15 years into your addiction, you're still saying, I got this. 15 years, but I think I got it now. That really is insanity, isn't it? So it really takes a deliverance. It takes a rescue. It takes someone from the outside snatching you out. And if you really could see it that way, it's much easier, because if you think you had anything to do with it, that you participated or helped, then you think that you can participate and help now. In Colossians 2 it says, just as you have received Christ Jesus, so walk in him. And I always ask people, well, how did you receive him? And they say, well, by faith. And I say, well, then how are we walking in him? Well, by faith. There you go, right? It's over simple sometimes. So we make things so complex. So the Apostle Paul said that we've been rescued from the domain of darkness, transferred into the kingdom of his beloved Son. And then he goes into how that took place. He says that it was the Father's good pleasure, that's verse 19, for all the fullness to dwell in him, and through him to reconcile all things to himself, having made peace through the blood of his cross. Through him, I say, whether things on earth or things in heaven. In Colossians 1:21, and although you were formerly alienated and hostile in mind, engaged in evil deeds, yet he has now reconciled you in his fleshly body through death, in order to present you before him holy and blameless and beyond reproach. So recently, this whole thing about Jesus reconciling us in his fleshly body has been a big deal for me. Because the Colossian problem, or the reason this letter was written, was there's a group of people that were saying that God couldn't have become flesh because that would have defiled him. So by merely being flesh, spirit, God's being spirit, couldn't become flesh. So if Jesus was really God, he couldn't have really been human. And so if he's walking around, it wasn't really him in a body like ours touching the earth. It was just looked like it. But right here, Paul is making his whole case that the fleshly death, the human bodily death, is the way we're rescued.
That's right.
So if we don't see that as an important thing, I mean, what Sylvia was talking about, the body death, as she puts it, that if we're not placed into his fleshly body, then we can't be rescued.
That's right.
So if we're believing that he was just a spirit walking around, there is no salvation for us.
That's right.
I mean, it's amazing too. I mean,
It doesn't rescue our flesh or human.
yeah, there's nothing about us that we can't be included in it. Yeah. I mean, it's amazing because he says, reconciled you in his fleshly body, verse 22, Colossians 1:22, through death. I mean, because if he was just a spirit body, we'd be in trouble.
Right.
I think it's in Hebrews, it says that he didn't come in the likeness of angels, but he took on flesh and blood because he came here for the seed of Abraham, or for for man. Man, wow. So that really does make you see your humanity a little differently. Most people think that we're sinful simply because we're human, as if just being human is sinning.
Right.
I'm telling you, a lot of people think that.
Yeah.
They say human nature.
Yeah, or sinful nature, flesh. Yeah, I mean, but it's always because we're human, as if we're supposed to be something different.
That the flesh is evil.
I mean, what was we supposed to be?
An alien?
Yeah, an alien. Yeah,
Alien? Oh.
a bodiless alien. Yeah, I mean, I mean, we were created in God's image, but we were created to live and be here in this earth realm as His representative. So,
Yeah, how's that sinful?
yeah, how could that? Yeah, that in itself can't be the problem, can it?
Jesus walked in flesh.
Yeah,
Wasn't sinful.
yeah.
Thank you, Lord.
Wow. So I mean, there it is. So it's through his fleshly death and our being included in that we are now made holy and blameless.
Oh, that's good.
We're made holy and blameless. And we always tell people, I'm not saying this about myself. This is what God said about me. Right? I mean, yeah, exactly. We're just agreeing with that. So people say, well, you don't look so holy. Well, you know what? I don't care. It's not really what, we don't walk by sight. That's not what we're called to do. Well, you don't always act very righteous. Well, okay. But it's a standing with God, right? We're in right standing with Him because we have been reconciled through the fleshly death and raised back. It's just, so there's only one cure, and it's death, burial, and resurrection. Over and over again, that's the only cure.
Right.
God's not trying to fix up the old man.
That's right.
So in Romans, let me see something. There's a verse in Romans that just pops into my head. Romans 8. No, wait a minute. It's not Romans 8. It's Romans 6. Romans 6, 13. It says, do not go on presenting the members of your body to sin as